Hello there and welcome to Black Jackal Gaming. Today we're going to take a look at the Assault Terminators, and these are elite first company of the Space Marines. So they're the melee orientated Terminator option, coming with two different variants. Possibly not as useful as the standard option, as the ability is not all that worthwhile. And they haven't actually had the true scaled updated kit yet, so they do look a little bit stumpy and odd next to the new true scale version. Their ability for Battle Shock is a bit meh. Space Marines have a fair few Battle Shock abilities throughout the Codex. I think GW let into it a little bit too hard, thinking it's going to be worthwhile, and it's mostly just not worth even considering. They had a price reduction at the last balanced data slate, so we'll take a look at if they're actually worthwhile taking. Looking at the data sheets, they come in with a movement characteristic of 5, toughness 5, 2-up save, 3 wounds, leadership 6, and objective control 2. They also have that inbuilt 4-up invulnerable save. If you opt to take the Storm Shield, it does grant you that additional wound, taking you up to 4 wounds. So they don't actually have any range profile whatsoever, not even a pistol, they only have their assault weapons. So looking at their melee profile, they're coming at weapon skill 3+. And you have the option, if you take the Storm Shield, of just the Thunderhammer. This comes with a devastating wound keyword, meaning that critical wounds will bypass the save throw of your opponent's armor. It comes with a profile of 3 attacks, weapon skill 4+, so slightly different to the Lightning Claws, strength 8, -2 AP, and 2 damage. Your other option is Lightning Claws, and they are twin linked, allowing you to reroll the wound roll. And this comes in at 5 attacks, weapon skill 3+, strength 5, -2 AP, and 1 damage. Across to their abilities, you'll be looking at the first up, the Teleport Homer. So at the start of the battle, you can select one Teleport Homer token for the unit and place it anywhere on the battlefield. This cannot be placed within the deployment zone of your opponents. If you do so, once per battle, you can target this for rapid ingress for 0 CP. And when you do set up within range of the Teleport Homer, you must be wholly within 3 inches horizontally, and yet also have to be 9 inches outside of the enemy models. So what this allows you to do is essentially just come in your opponent's turn for using rapid ingress for free for 0 CP. So you've got an out of phase movement to then potentially set up a charge in a later battle round. Unfortunately, your opponent will know where you're placing this, so they can try and counter that, but it is quite a useful ability to have. Secondly, they have Terminator's Assault. So each time they end a charge move, each enemy unit within engagement range of them must take a Battle Shock test. Quite on the weak side. It'd be better if they had something that's a little bit more damage dealing, or they are the Assault variant, so maybe a reroll of a charge, or +1 attack, or +1 strength on the charge, rather than just they get a Battle Shock test, which most armies in the game can pass relatively easily. If it had a built-in -1 to the battle test, it might make it a little bit more worthwhile. Looking at the buffs and combos for them, there's quite a few leaders that can join them. So first up we have the Ancient. He grants them an additional 1 OC for the unit. He also gives them +1 to hit when they're below starting strength, and an additional +1 to wound if they're below half strength, so quite nice buff to have. He's best equipped with the Thunderhammer and the Storm Shield, as that will bump him up to 6 wounds, which is very nice for him to have. We then have the Chaplain. He grants +1 to wound and melee, which is very nice, especially when you're considering you've only got your strength 5 Lightning Claws, with 4 rerolls to wound, so that +1 to wound will put you in quite a nice bracket there, especially if you're going into T3 bodies, because you will be wounding them on 2s with a reroll built in. He also grants a Feel No Pain 4+ against mortal wounds, which is quite a nice little option to have. And then you're probably best equipping him with the Storm Shield, which does take him to the 6 wounds, and he will still have his Crozius Arcanum. You can either swap the Storm Shield out for a Storm Bolter, but it's not really worthwhile. You might as well take the Storm Shield and get the additional wound. Then we have the Librarian. He grants them a Feel No Pain 4+ against psychic attacks. He also gives them Sustain Hits 1 for all attacks, which is a very nice option to have. Ramps up their damage dealing ability a little bit more. He's best equipped with the combi weapon, Smite, and Force weapon. Quite nice him having the combi weapon and the Smite as the option. Then we have the Captain. he gets a free use of a stratagem per battle round, and he can use it if it's already being used as well. These are only for battle tactic stratagems, but it's very nice to have in the bag to have a second use out of quite a good stratagem, and it will be free as well. He also allows them to re-roll charge rolls, and considering this is the assault variant and you might be teleporting in, having that built-in re-roll is quite nice because it adds a little bit more consistency to your charges. He's best equipped probably with the Relic Fist and the Combi Weapon. The Combi Weapon having the Anti-Infantry 4+, and the Relic Fist just gives him a little more bit bang for dollar rather than the Power Weapon, which, whilst having a couple of more of attacks, Strength 5 doesn't really go that far in the game. Looking at the best option to take, I quite like the combination of the Captain, as you do have that reroll to charge, and with these guys not having a ranged ability, you really do want to be getting them within assault range of other units, unless you do just want to use them with the Storm Shield to hold an objective. The reroll to charge is very useful for him. So if you put them in the Stormlance Task Force, you're getting the advance and charge ability. So that 5-inch movement, if you're not teleporting in, if you're starting on the table at the battlefield, or you're moving later on in the game, having that 5-inch plus an average of 4-inch advance and still being able to charge, your average charge being a 7 with a reroll built in, so we'll make that probably an 8. You are then looking at a 17-inch threat range with these later on in the game, which is very nice to have for what is probably a slightly more harder hitting unit than a lot of the melee options in the Space Marine Codex. If you're given the Portents of Wisdom enhancement, you get your rerolls to your advanced rolls as well, so you get more consistency out your advanced rolls, so you're more likely to hit those 4, 5s and 6s, and not be negated by having a 1 or 2 in there every now and then. And finally, you can use the Shock Assault stratagem. This gains you the Lance keyword, which gives you the +1 to wound and melee. That's putting you on your Strength 9 for your Thunderhammer, and your Strength 6 essentially for your Lightning Claws. So if you're going into your T4 body, your Lightning Claws are still going to be hitting on those 3s. So if you're going into the T3 bodies, your Lightning Claws will now be wounding on the 2s. And with your Thunder Hammer, if you are going in to your Toughness 8, you're no longer hitting on the 4, wound on the 4s, you're now wounding on the 3. So it does add quite a lot of damage dealing ability to these weapons having that. As well as that, if you've got the mirror matchup and you're going into Terminators, having that +1 to wound means that your Lightning Claws will now be wounding Terminators on 3s, which is very nice, especially with that 2 AP. So they are on 195 points per 5 models. You probably are better off just taking the standard Terminators, because you do get the Power Fist and the Stormbolter, so you've still got the Strength 8 -2 AP, 2 damage, and you've got that 2 shots rapid fire, 2 Stormbolter to go along with it. As well as that, they have the ability to reroll 1s to wound against the Oath Moment target. As well as this, the ability is much better, being Fury of the First. This gives them +1 to the hit roll when targeting the Oath Moment target, adding a lot more damage dealing to this target. Essentially lets you go into something and guarantee almost to kill it, because you will be hitting on 2s, and then you will be wounding on, with Strength 8, likely on 3s or 4s what you're going into. Plus you'll have that +1 to wound if you're potentially using Lance or taking the Chaplain, and the 10 points cheaper, so it's just a much better option all around. I'm not entirely sure why the Assault Terminators are more expensive. They should be more cheaper, but that's GW's balance for you. It doesn't quite get it right all the time. If you liked the video, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel to see all future content. If you want to support the channel, consider taking a membership or popping over to Patreon, where I do a fair bit of blogging, post memes, and there's a couple of small STLs available. Take it easy, enjoy these videos, and I'll see you next time.